In the twilight shadows of the ruined city of Aeloria, a lone warrior named Kaelira ran. Her boots struck the cracked stone streets as monstrous howls echoed behind her. She clutched a glowing crystal close to her chest, the Heart of Aeloria, a relic said to hold the soul of the realm itself. If it fell into the wrong hands, darkness would consume the world. The beasts chasing her were not ordinary. They were the Wraithburn, corrupted creatures forged from sorrow and shadow. They once were people, now twisted by the dark magic of the sorcerer Malvek. Kaelira didn't know how long she could run, but she knew she had to keep the heart safe, even if it cost her. She leapt over shattered stones and ducked beneath broken arches as the city crumbled around her. Her sword, glowing with ancient runes, pulsed with each heartbeat. The heart responded to it like it remembered its guardian. Kaelira had been chosen, though she didn't know why, only that her destiny was tied to the crystal. Memories flashed in her mind, her village burning, her sister screaming, the darkness swallowing everything. That day, a dying priest pressed the heart into her hands and whispered, "Run, protect it. You are the last light." She had run ever since, through forests, caves, and now this cursed city. A loud roar behind her jolted her back to the present. One of the Wraithburn leapt forward, nearly grabbing her cloak. Kaelira spun, slashing with her blade. It cut through the shadow, making the creature shriek and vanish into mist. But more were coming. She had to reach the tower, the only place the heart could be awakened. The Tower of Whispers stood beyond the broken gates, wrapped in violet mist and ancient wards. Kaelira sprinted across the crumbling bridge, feeling the tremble of stones beneath her feet. A pulse from the heart guided her, pulling her closer. The Wraithburn screeched behind her, but the tower's magic repelled them for now. As she crossed the threshold, her breath caught, the tower pulsed with quiet energy. Walls whispered forgotten names, and ghostly runes flickered in the air. In the center stood a pedestal where the heart once rested centuries ago. Kaelira stepped forward, but a deep voice rumbled, "You are not yet worthy." The floor beneath her glowed, forming a circle of light. From the shadows emerged a figure, armored in silver flame, eyes blazing. "I'm Syrian, guardian of the heart," he spoke. "To awaken its power, you must face your fear, not the Wraithburn, but the darkness within." Kaelira gripped her sword tighter. The tower faded around her. Suddenly, she was in her childhood home. The screams of her sister echoed again. The fire raged. She stood frozen, just as she had that night. "You failed her," a voice hissed in her mind. "You let her die." Tears filled Kaelira's eyes, but she stepped forward. "No," she whispered, "I was a child. But I've carried her with me. Her memory is my strength." Light burst from her chest, the illusion shattered. Kaelira stood once again in the tower, the guardian kneeling. "You have passed," he said. "Now awaken the heart, and bring back the light." Kaelira approached the pedestal. The heart pulsed brightly, resonating with her soul. She placed it down, and instantly ancient glyphs awakened across the floor and walls. A column of light shot upward through the tower, shaking the ground. Far beyond the city, mountains trembled, and the sky above Aeloria cracked open with beams of gold. Outside, the Wraithburn recoiled in agony. Some vanished instantly, others collapsed into dust. The dark mist began to lift. Kaelira dropped to her knees, exhausted, but a warmth spread through her chest. Her burden was finally shared by the light. The heart had recognized her, accepted her, and begun its work to restore the realm. A quiet voice whispered beside her, "She would be proud of you." Kaelira turned to see a vision of her sister, not twisted by memory or fear, but whole and smiling. Tears welled up in Kaelira's eyes. She reached out, and though she couldn't touch her, she felt her presence, strong, peaceful, eternal. The guardian Syrian reappeared, his armor now calm and silver. "The heart will need time to restore Aeloria, but its light is returning thanks to your courage. You were never chosen by fate, you chose yourself again and again by standing when all else fell." Kaelira stood tall, sword in hand, spirit steady. She stepped out onto the tower balcony. The land before her shimmered with early signs of rebirth. Dying trees sprouted green leaves, and ruined rivers began to flow again. The sun, hidden for years, broke through the clouds. Kaelira closed her eyes and breathed deeply. For the first time in forever, there was hope. As Kaelira descended the tower steps, she passed walls once silent, now singing with low, glowing hums. The ancient spirits of Aeloria stirred from slumber. Her every step left behind traces of light, though her body ached, her heart beat steady. She had become more than just a warrior. She was now a beacon, a bearer of new beginnings. But her journey wasn't over. In the distance, beyond the hills, Malvex still stirred. Though weakened by the Heart's awakening, he had not been destroyed. His tower of shadow still loomed on the horizon. Kaelira knew peace was only beginning, and darkness doesn't die easily. She tightened the straps on her sword and walked forward. Villagers began to emerge from hiding, blinking at the sun as if seeing it for the first time. Children ran into open fields, laughing, while elders wept in silence. The curse that gripped Aeloria for generations was beginning to lift. Kaelira passed them quietly. Some bowed, some touched her cloak. She offered no words. Her duty was not yet done. By nightfall, she reached the stone crossroads where ruins marked the border of the broken lands. Her map was torn, her supplies low, but her resolve unshaken. She sat by a dying fire and unwrapped an old cloth, her sister's pendant, the only thing she'd kept. It glowed now faintly, in harmony with the Heart's power inside her. Suddenly, a rustle in the bushes made her spring to her feet. A hooded figure stepped forward, not a threat but a messenger. "The Resistance sent me," he said. "Malvex's forces gather again. He hides in the ashen peaks, wounded but dangerous. He fears you." Kaelira nodded. She feared nothing any more. Morning would bring war. She traveled through scorched lands, where trees stood like black bones and rivers steamed with ancient poison. The Heart's glow guided her, purified the path with every step. Creatures once corrupted cowered from her light. She slept little, dreamed less. Each mile brought her closer to Malvex's lair, and to the end of the nightmare. At last, the ashen peaks loomed before her, wrapped in storms and sorrow. Lightning danced along jagged cliffs. Kaelira climbed for hours, wind howling in her ears. She reached a broken gate carved with twisted runes. Beyond it lay darkness, thick, heavy, alive. She placed her hand on the Heart and whispered, "I'm not afraid." Inside, the air was thick with whispers and ash. Shadows crawled along the walls like living smoke. Kaelira stepped cautiously, her blade humming with energy. At the chamber's heart, Malvex stood, gaunt, eyes burning with hatred, his body wrapped in black flame. "You," he spat, "the child who runs from death." Kaelira raised her sword. "No, the one who brings its end."
Their battle cracked the earth. Fire met light, steel met darkness. Malvex conjured twisted illusions, memories of pain, fear, loss. Kaelira cut through them one by one, through her guilt, through her sorrow, until only truth remained. She was not the girl who ran. She was the woman who stood. And in that strength, the heart blazed. With a final cry, Kaelira drove her sword into the ground. The Heart unleashed a wave of brilliance so pure it turned shadows into dust. Malvex screamed, consumed by light, his body torn apart by the very magic he sought to control. The mountain shook. The chamber collapsed. But Kaelira stood firm, radiant, unbroken. When the light faded, she stood alone. The tower was gone. The skies were clear. Across the realm, people felt the shift. The weight lifted. Hope returned. Kaelira descended the mountain, her steps slow but steady. Flowers bloomed in her wake. She had not only defeated darkness, she had become the light the world needed. At the edge of a quiet lake, Kaelira rested. She gazed into the water, seeing not a warrior, but a healer, a protector. She unclipped the heart from her chest and placed it on a stone, letting it shine freely. The land no longer needed to be guarded. It needed to grow. And she, finally, could breathe. Days passed. Kaelira journeyed through peaceful valleys and once ruined villages now reborn. Children laughed without fear, and old songs returned to taverns and firesides. People told tales of the warrior with silver eyes and light in her step. Some called her a legend. Others called her a myth. But Kaelira smiled. She was simply someone who kept walking. She returned to her childhood village, now covered in green and gold. The ruins were cleared, gardens bloomed, and new homes stood where ashes once were. At the center, a stone monument had been built, her sister's name carved at the top, surrounded by others who were lost. Kaelira knelt and whispered, "We made it." That evening, under a sky of silver stars, she sat beside a small campfire. A group of travelers approached, asking if the stories were true, of the girl who faced monsters, of the heart that saved the realm. Kaelira didn't speak of glory or battles. She said, "I was afraid, but I walked anyway." That was enough. One of the travelers, a young girl with curious eyes, leaned forward. "Can I be like you?" Kaelira smiled, handing her a carved pendant made of crystal and wood. "You already are," she said. "Being a hero isn't about swords or magic. It's about choosing the light when all you've ever known is shadow." As the fire crackled and the night deepened, Kaelira lay back, staring at the stars. Somewhere far beyond, the heart still pulsed, not in her hands anymore, but in the land, in the people, in every story passed from lips to hearts. Her journey was over. Her legend had just begun. And when dawn broke once more, Kaelira rose with it. She packed her things, slung her sword over her back, and walked east, toward new lands, new skies, and whatever called her next. Not as a savior, not as a warrior, but as a woman who once held the heart of a dying world and helped it beat again. In the distance, bells rang, not alarms, but songs of peace. Fields shimmered with dew, and birds returned to skies once blackened by storms. Kaelira paused on a hilltop, letting the wind carry the sounds of a world healing. She no longer needed to run or fight. Her silence was no longer burden, it was freedom. In the distance, bells rang, not in warning, but in celebration. The world was healing. Meadows once dry now shimmered with flowers, rivers sang as they danced through valleys, and birds returned to long silent skies. Kaelira stood atop a hill, watching life bloom where only ashes had remained. She inhaled deeply, letting the wind fill her lungs. This was no longer a world to fear, it was a world worth living in. She looked back only once, at the land she had crossed, the battle she had fought, the pain she had endured, but also at the laughter she helped restore, the hope she reignited. Then she smiled, turned her gaze to the sunrise, and walked forward, not as a hero seeking glory, but as a woman reborn, quiet, strong, and finally free. The story of Kaelira would live on, not just in books, but in every heart she helped to heal.